7 years of marriage. 7 long, grueling years where I poured every ounce of my energy into building a future that was supposed to be ours. I worked 2 jobs, 16-hour days at a factory, and then a warehouse, just so we could inch closer to the American dream, owning a home. But it wasn't just about me. No, I had bigger dreams for Valentina, my wife. She had this spark in her eyes when she talked about her small business venture, a boutique skincare line she swore would take off any day now. So, I sacrificed everything: sleep, hobbies, even time with friends. My body ached from standing on concrete floors all day, only to stack boxes all night. Yet, despite the exhaustion, I smiled because I believed in her. I believed in us. But here's the thing about sacrifice: it doesn't always look back at you the same way. Her business hadn't turned a profit in years. Not 1 cent. And instead of gratitude for my efforts, there was silence. The kind of silence that makes your chest tighten late at night when you're staring at the ceiling, wondering if anyone notices how hard you're trying. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that once her company took off, things would change. We'd laugh about these tough times over coffee in our new house someday. That hope kept me going through double shifts, skipped meals, and countless nights of broken sleep. What I didn't know then was that while I was out there grinding, she was rewriting our story in ways I couldn't have imagined. It was supposed to be the perfect anniversary. I had spent weeks planning it, even swapping shifts so I could surprise Valentina with a special dinner. The steaks were marinated to perfection, her favorite wine chilled just right, and those chocolate lava cakes she adored sitting neatly in their boxes. But life has a cruel way of twisting your best intentions into something unrecognizable. When I arrived home early that day, my heart racing with excitement, I noticed Kyler's car parked outside our apartment complex. Nothing unusual about that, or so I thought. As I walked up the stairs, balancing the food, flowers, and wine, I heard voices through the door. It wasn't fully closed, just cracked open enough for me to catch every word. And then it hit me like a freight train. Valentina's voice, clear as day, calling me pathetic. She laughed at how hard I worked, mocking my extra hours as if they meant nothing. "I'm just glad I don't have to pretend I'm attracted to him anymore," she said casually, as though discussing the weather. But the real dagger came when Kyler chimed in. "Val could do so much better," he sneered, his tone dripping with condescension. Then, the final blow, her smug reply. "Trust me, I already am." Those 5 words replayed in my mind on an endless loop, each repetition carving deeper into my soul. My hands trembled as I stood there, frozen, unable to move or breathe. They weren't just cheating, they were proud of it. Proud of making a fool out of me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Instead, I quietly pushed the door open, set the anniversary dinner down on the counter, placed the flowers beside it, and walked out. From where I stood in the kitchen, I could see them on the couch, too close, her hand resting on his arm. Her eyes held the same warmth she used to reserve for me. That image haunted me all the way to the motel, where I checked into a dingy room that smelled faintly of cigarettes and despair. The first night was hell. I barely slept, tossing and turning under scratchy sheets. When sleep finally claimed me, it brought nightmares worse than reality. In my dream, Valentina and Kyler stood laughing in front of our friends and family, pointing fingers at me while chanting, "Pathetic, pathetic, pathetic." Their laughter echoed endlessly, growing louder until I woke up drenched in sweat, my chest tight with panic. And then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Do you know your wife is cheating?" The message felt like a punch to the gut. Was this some kind of sick joke? Or had someone known all along and decided to throw salt on the wound now? The timing couldn't have been more brutal. Sitting in that cheap motel room, surrounded by peeling wallpaper and flickering fluorescent lights, I realized something devastating. The woman I had sacrificed everything for, the woman I believed in, supported, and loved, had never truly been mine. Every hour I worked, every ounce of energy I poured into us, had been wasted on someone who saw me as nothing more than a paycheck. The next morning, I woke up in that dingy motel room with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. My life was over, but hers wasn't going to be easy either, not if I had anything to say about it. The first thing I did was call in sick to both jobs for the first time ever. Then, at exactly 8:59 a.m., I parked myself in front of the bank's door, waiting like a man on a mission. As soon as they opened, I marched inside and asked to transfer half of our joint savings into a new account under my name alone. The teller gave me this pitying look, probably because I looked like hell, unshaven, bloodshot eyes, clothes wrinkled from sleeping in them. But none of that mattered. What mattered was securing what little I had left before Valentina could get her hands on it. And then came the bombshell. While reviewing recent transactions, the banker casually mentioned there'd been an attempted withdrawal just hours earlier for the entire remaining balance. My stomach dropped. She hadn't wasted any time, had she? If I'd waited even one more day, everything would have been gone. That realization hit me like a punch to the gut. All those extra shifts, all those sleepless nights. I'd sacrificed so much, only for her to try and take it all without a second thought. Back at Quinn's place later that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was coming. So, I decided to install small cameras around the apartment when Valentina wasn't home. It felt invasive, sure, but after what I'd heard, I didn't trust her an inch. And thank God I did, because 2 days later, I caught footage of Kyler sneaking in through the front door carrying a large duffel bag. He stashed it in the closet like he owned the place. A bag that big could mean anything: money, documents, evidence of their affair, but whatever it was, it confirmed my worst fears. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning something. Something calculated. Something cold. Every fiber of my being screamed betrayal. But beneath the rage, there was a strange calm. I was done playing the victim. Whatever game she was playing, I was ready to fight back, on my terms. The morning after I found out about Valentina's betrayal, I sat in Quinn's cramped apartment, staring at my laptop screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I composed an email to her parents. I knew it was underhanded, sending an anonymous message, but I couldn't let them walk into this blindfolded anymore. "Your daughter has been cheating on me with our neighbor," I typed, my hands trembling with anger and exhaustion. "She's also $32,000 in debt from a failing business she kept hidden while I worked 2 jobs to support us." Hitting send felt like lighting a fuse. There was no turning back now. That same day, I booked a private dining room at a local restaurant for what Valentina believed would be our reconciliation dinner. In reality, it was a reckoning, a stage where everyone who mattered would finally see her for who she truly was. I invited her parents, my own, Timothy, Rebecca, and even Ruth, her former business partner. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who once prided herself on appearances would soon have her facade shattered publicly. For days leading up to the event, I meticulously planned every detail: the playlist, the slideshow presentation, the seating arrangement. I wanted it to feel casual yet calculated, intimate yet damning. As I rehearsed what I'd say, guilt flickered briefly. Was this too cruel? But then I remembered her smug voice, Kyler's laughter, and the way they both mocked me behind my back. No, this wasn't cruelty, it was justice. And justice, I realized, tastes bitter but necessary. The clock read 5:45 p.m. when my phone buzzed with an unexpected text from Valentina. "I'm coming over now. Can't wait another minute." My stomach dropped. She wasn't supposed to arrive until 7 o'clock, and I was still in the bathroom, adjusting my tie while mentally rehearsing what I would say. Panic set in as I heard her key turn in the lock, 15 minutes too early. I frantically texted everyone to hurry, but I knew they wouldn't make it in time. For the next 20 minutes, I'd be alone with her. Alone with the woman who had shattered my life. When I stepped out of the bathroom, there she was, standing in the blue dress I'd bought her last year for her birthday. In one hand, she held a bottle of wine. In the other, tears streamed down her face. "I knew you wouldn't have anything decent to drink," she said softly, trying to force a smile through her sobs. The jab stung, but more than that, it revealed the coldness beneath her facade. Even in this moment of supposed vulnerability, she couldn't resist mocking me. That's when my resolve hardened again. 7 years of memories didn't just vanish overnight, but neither did 7 years of lies. For the next 20 minutes, Valentina performed what can only be described as a desperate monologue. She cried, apologized, swore the affair with Kyler meant nothing, and claimed it had only happened twice. She blamed our marriage problems on feeling neglected, on my long hours at work. But every word felt hollow, like a script she'd rehearsed in the mirror. Each time she tried to touch my arm or hand, I shifted away, refusing to let her manipulate me further. At 6:17, the doorbell rang. The look on Valentina's face when her parents walked in was priceless, confusion quickly turning into alarm. Her father, Roberto, always calm and composed, simply nodded at me before taking his seat. But her mother, Rhonda, stormed in like a hurricane. "How dare you humiliate my daughter like this?" she spat, glaring at me as if I were the villain. I clenched my jaw, waiting for the storm to pass. As more guests arrived, our closest friends, my parents, the room grew tense, the air thick with unspoken accusations. By 6:32, 9 people were crammed into our small living room. I stood up, thanked everyone for coming, and explained that Valentina and I were having communication issues that needed resolution with their support. Valentina sat frozen on the couch, shooting daggers at me with her eyes. Then I started the slideshow. The first slide showed screenshots of our bank account, highlighting my regular deposits from 2 jobs over the past 4 months. The second slide displayed her secret credit card statements, revealing hotel charges on days she claimed to be working late. The third slide contained screenshots of text exchanges between her and Kyler, dating back 3 months. The fourth slide played a clip from my hidden camera, Kyler entering our apartment at 2:13 p.m. on a Tuesday when I was at work. The room fell silent except for Rhonda's sharp gasps. Then came the audio, a 10-second clip of Valentina calling me pathetic, saying she no longer had to pretend to be attracted to me, and confirming she was already cheating. Valentina tried to dismiss it as fake, edited, taken out of context, but her protests fell flat. Her father stood up, looked at her with an expression so sad it broke something inside me, and walked out without a word. Rhonda followed, throwing one last accusation. "I raised you better than this." As the presentation continued, I revealed the financial bombshell. Valentina's business was $32,000 in debt. While I worked 16-hour days to support her dreams, she had been hemorrhaging money on a failing venture and hiding it from everyone, including Ruth, her business partner and bridesmaid. Quinn confirmed that none of the evidence was manipulated. That's when Valentina finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Through gasping breaths, she admitted everything. The 5-month affair, the hidden debt, her plans to leave me anyway. One by one, our friends made awkward excuses and left. My parents hugged me tightly before heading out. Eventually, it was just me, Valentina, and Quinn. She begged for forgiveness, promised counseling, swore she'd cut off Kyler. But I handed her the divorce papers, giving her 48 hours to move out. As she packed her things later that week, supervised by her mother, I realized the finality of it all. 7 years reduced to labeled boxes and trash bags. It was heartbreaking, but also liberating. The divorce finalized faster than I expected, but the aftermath was anything but clean. The judge ruled in favor of an equitable split. I kept my personal savings, every cent I had earned through blood, sweat, and tears over the years, while Valentina retained her failing business. It was poetic justice, really. She'd built that company on lies, using my hard-earned money to chase a dream that never materialized. Now, she was left with nothing but a hollow shell of failure, while I walked away with the financial security she had once mocked as pathetic. Valentina didn't have anywhere else to go. At 32, she moved back in with her parents, a move that must have stung deeply for someone who prided herself on independence. Her carefully curated Instagram feed went dark. No more filtered photos of latte art or inspirational quotes about entrepreneurship. Instead, rumors trickled down through mutual friends. She was struggling to make ends meet without my income. The business she swore would take off any day now officially folded 8 weeks after our split. Ruth, her former partner, cut ties completely, leaving Valentina to face the wreckage alone. And then there was Kyler, the man who had been so eager to laugh at my expense and sleep with my wife behind my back. Predictably, he disappeared the moment things got messy. According to Quinn's sources, Valentina drunkenly showed up at his apartment late one night, begging him to make their relationship official. His response? A block number and a change of locks. Classic Kyler, happy to play house when it suited him but unwilling to deal with the consequences of his actions. Watching her unravel was almost satisfying, though part of me still felt sorry for her. Almost. But the real kicker came 3 months later during one of those mundane grocery trips I dreaded most. I spotted her before she saw me, standing in aisle 5, clutching a basket filled with instant noodles and generic brand cereal. She looked broken. Gone was the confident woman I once knew. In her place stood a shadow of her former self, hair unwashed, makeup free, wearing clothes that seemed 2 sizes too big. For a brief moment, I considered turning around and leaving. But something stopped me. Maybe curiosity, maybe anger, maybe the need for closure. We ended up in the same checkout line, thanks to some cruel twist of fate. She tried to act casual, pretending not to notice me until we were forced into awkward small talk. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her voice trembling. I gave her a curt nod, saying only, "Fine." Then she blurted out what I should have seen coming. "I'm really struggling right now. Could you help me out? Just until I get back on my feet." Her eyes pleaded with me, but they couldn't hide the desperation lurking beneath. For a split second, memories of our life together flashed before my eyes. The late-night conversations, the dreams we shared, the promises she broke. But then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, the way she'd laughed at me with Kyler. My jaw tightened as I replied, cold and unyielding. "You made your choices, Valentina. Live with them." Without waiting for her response, I paid for my groceries and walked away, leaving her standing there, humiliated and defeated. As I drove home, I replayed the encounter in my mind. Part of me wondered if I'd been too harsh, but then I thought about everything I'd sacrificed, everything she'd taken from me. No, this wasn't cruelty. This was survival. And for the first time since the divorce, I felt something resembling peace. 6 months after the divorce, I finally moved out of the apartment that had become a mausoleum of memories. Every corner whispered fragments of our past. The couch where she sat laughing with Kyler, the kitchen counter where I'd placed that anniversary dinner. It was suffocating. With Quinn and Timothy's help, I found a smaller place closer to work, a fresh start without echoes of betrayal. The moving process was cathartic. Each box I packed felt like sealing away another chapter of pain. On the day we finished, we drank beers on my new balcony, watching the sunset over the city skyline. For the first time in what felt like forever, I exhaled. But healing wasn't linear. Some nights, I'd wake up at 3 a.m., scrolling through Reddit or staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd missed signs earlier. Friends and family became my lifeline. Rebecca, Timothy's wife, insisted I join them for dinner twice a week so I wouldn't spiral into loneliness. At her urging, I started journaling, scribbling raw thoughts about anger, loss, and eventual acceptance. Those pages turned into something unexpected, a book. Shattered Trust. A journey through betrayal chronicled my descent into despair and slow climb back to self-worth. To my surprise, it resonated. Readers reached out, sharing their own stories of heartbreak and resilience. Signing copies at local bookstores became therapy, a way to connect with others who understood. Then came the event that would seal my closure. During a crowded signing at Barnes & Noble, Valentina appeared. She walked in wearing oversized sunglasses, looking frail and out of place among the bustling crowd. When it was her turn, she removed her glasses, eyes red from crying, and publicly begged for forgiveness. "I've changed," she pleaded, voice trembling. "Please believe me." The room fell silent, all eyes shifting between us. For a moment, I hesitated. Memories of happier times flickered, her laughter, the dreams we once shared. But then I remembered the truth. I looked directly into her eyes, steady and unyielding, and said, "I don't need your apology. I just need you to admit that you destroyed everything." Gasps rippled through the audience, followed by murmurs of approval. Someone even clapped. Valentina stood there, frozen, before rushing out, tears streaming down her face. Watching her leave, I realized something profound. This wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about reclaiming power over my narrative. The aftermath of that encounter solidified my recovery. Sales of my book surged, and media outlets began reaching out for interviews. Yet, despite the newfound attention, I remained grounded. My focus shifted to health, both physical and mental. Gym sessions replaced late-night brooding, and therapy taught me to confront lingering doubts. I still thought about the past occasionally, but those moments no longer consumed me. Instead, they reminded me how far I'd come. Looking back, I realized divorce didn't break me, it rebuilt me. Stronger, smarter, more aware of my worth. And while I'll never forget the scars, they're now badges of survival rather than symbols of defeat. Looking back, I realized the biggest mistake I made wasn't working too hard. It was giving everything to someone who didn't value it. For 7 years, I poured my soul into building a future that Valentina never truly believed in. I sacrificed sleep, hobbies, and even friendships, all while she quietly dismantled what we had. The truth hit me like a freight train. Sacrifice means nothing if the person on the receiving end doesn't appreciate it. Recovering from betrayal isn't just about moving on. It's about rebuilding yourself from the ground up. At first, I thought I could handle everything alone, like some lone wolf nursing its wounds in silence. But life has a way of forcing you to lean on others. Timothy's wife, Rebecca, insisted I join them for dinner twice a week, so I wouldn't spiral into loneliness. Quinn introduced me to his gym buddy, who taught me how to channel anger into lifting weights instead of self-destruction. Even my boss noticed when my productivity dipped and gave me space to heal. Without them, I might still be stuck in that motel room, replaying every painful moment over and over again. The hardest part wasn't the nights I spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if any of our marriage had been real. It was realizing that life doesn't stop, no matter how shattered you feel. Bills still come due. The sun still rises. And people will keep expecting you to show up, even when you're barely holding yourself together. But somewhere along the way, I found a strange kind of peace. It wasn't forgiveness, it was acceptance. Acceptance that Valentina's choices were hers, not mine. That Kyler's cowardice wasn't my failure. And that my worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion of me. Now, 6 months later, as I sit on my new balcony watching the sunset, I feel something I haven't felt in years: hope. Not hope for reconciliation or revenge, but hope for myself. Life is unpredictable, cruel even, but it's also resilient. And if there's one lesson I've learned, it's this: don't give your all to someone who sees your efforts as weakness. Because in the end, the only person who can truly break you is yourself, if you let them. 6 months after the divorce, I sat on my new balcony, watching the city lights flicker like scattered stars. The apartment below me was quiet for once. No echoes of betrayal, no ghosts of what used to be. It wasn't perfect. Some nights, I still woke up at 3 a.m., scrolling through Reddit or staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd missed something obvious all those years. But the sharp edges of pain had dulled into a manageable ache. What surprised me most wasn't just that I survived. It was how much I learned about myself. Before Valentina, I thought sacrifice defined love. Now, I realize it can also define self-destruction. Her betrayal didn't just teach me who she truly was. It forced me to confront who I am and what I deserve. I'm not the same man who worked 16-hour shifts while his wife laughed at him behind closed doors. That version of me is gone, a casualty of trust misplaced. The irony isn't lost on me. Losing everything made me see clearly what matters. My worth isn't tied to someone else's approval. My strength doesn't come from exhaustion, but resilience. And though peace feels fragile sometimes, like glass ready to shatter, I know it's mine to keep this time. Life moves forward, even when you think it won't. Betrayal may leave scars, but they remind me not of weakness, but survival.